So when it is in question Nazism, it will need to be recognized that Nazism in substance is not connected to look or to image. It is associated with protocol, which is basically very much fascism, and it is based on exploitation of resources and accumulation of wealth, with no line on horizon. Basically, international exploitation of planetary resources. It is connected connected to super rich, and that is what exactly we see today happening in America, in USA of America. We basically see classical example of Nazism winning in America, and fascism for that matter, and a classic case of exploitation and economy. And then it is attached some kind of blonde protocol, which basically is Hezbollah. So Nazism is using Hezbollah as a sacrificed lamb. As a result, Germany has become was used exactly like that, for the purpose of collecting the wealth, and then it was dropped out. Germany was used equally as a Hezbollah. It will need to be noticed now how that differs from Protocol Palestine, where actually Palestine become, in substance, recruited within terrorism activities for the purpose of forces that are behind that look and would not look like that. Obviously, that would be the real face of Nazism and fascism. So I wouldn't go with personal features. I would go with something that would be rather the focus here is using human resources technically, which of course is the hidden secret. And in substance, we are talking about conflicting line when the resources being used are actually in category of human resources. And when you have on the other side of the equation, obviously that one would find wealth justifiable by exploiting human resources, which is going to be questionable then how much on the other side we have equally human protocol. Of course, many people would not find being humanitarian or humane very much matter for a question of profit generation. It is needless to say, that is the conflicting line when you end up speaking about wealth as a matter of resource exploitation. And then you find humans sitting there. You end up asking, well, what kind of economy that is that can be based on species exploiting their own kind? Or we, which obviously I am deficient in, you end up being much more on much more specific playground, where using other resources, human resources, is more a reference to slavery, which is obviously can be very, very well recognized as international, as a matter of national differences, cultural differences, development differences. Today, there's talking about chips or chips. That is very much the one that are being used in computer industry, chips for computer industries, and all of that suggests that it is in question hidden slavery. I mean, how many people are going to hear the word chips and going on and India and China are discussing, competing, who is going to produce more chips or cheaper chips. And then we're pretending like, there is no slavery, and there is no Nazism, and there is no fascism. Excuse me, what more it takes for someone to recognize fascism and Nazism right there in front of your eyes? And no, it doesn't have to be extraterrestrials. Terrestrials are doing it just fine. But I wanted to say that has nothing to do with the hair color or kind of racial supremacy. It has to do with income, in the way how someone generates income. It might be associated to race supremacy as well. But that is not the principal definition of the entire event. It is to be concluded there. Therefore, monarchy of England and monarchies in general, but especially I'm going to notice monarchy of England, doesn't exist as actual monarchy, as a political house. It does exist as an economic house, as saloon for cars. That is the house where they're exposing the latest models of a car, which then someone out there call human. For someone out there, the human is latest model of a car. And that monarchy represents exactly that. Economic platform, not political, but economic. What they wanted to happen, obviously they wanted to create next level of a car that's going to be also political. They wanted to go further into the game as gods, so they can control politics as well. We have read enough that's some capital level Jewish platform, but let's leave it to. Also, let's don't ignore here also the Crusaders protocol, historically Masonry. Therefore, that would be equally participating in such history building, where basically politics becomes hostage to economic protocol. In substance, I'm going to notice that is not just Jewish or Israel, but it is also, or therefore Palestine as well. These two are actually shareholding the temple, which is therefore a reference to political function, but they are using it as economic extortion or for purposes of economic promotion. That's historical. On the other side, you have Crusaders, and obviously Crusaders would be basically entire Western project. It would be the new men of West, basically. Here there is no difference between old society and new society. West becomes a driver. I am just recognizing this briefly without doing any research as some kind of sketching on the ground, how we should be understanding what's going on at the moment, to what then it should follow much more in detail understanding. But I am not willing to leave West out of leash on this, because they are withholding the entire development and the outcome of that entire enterprise. They are leaving it as a matter of their currency and the overall civilizational infrastructure. And if they think that that is absolutely to be abstracted from what's going on here, then we are wasting time here. Western civilization cannot be abstracted from these affairs, because these affairs are that much grander that they actually create Western civilization. the outcome of these affairs is Western civilization. To the extent that you are all depending on it, you are basically part of that entire scenery. So don't give me like you have nothing to do with it. Yes, you have everything to do with it, and you would know about it much more than I know, because you have been actually playing it with your companies, with your media, with everything that West is. You have been playing it. As a rotten children, excuse me, I am addressing the system. I'm relieving people. I'm addressing the system. The system, what we call Western civilization, cannot be excluded from what I'm talking about, but it is actually the outcome of what I'm talking about. That monarchy is economic car saloon for presenting the latest model of a car. They wanted to enclose the political, a bit of a political substance. Obviously, it turned to be a bit more than a bit, because someone wanted to make a bit more of a sensation, should I say. Although it is very much on one side perceived as engaged element, on the other side it reached its vertical point. So no one else can set themselves above this political performance. Now I'm very sure we reached that level, and I'm going to therefore now summarize on the actual outcome of what I was discussing yesterday, much more on the ground, within much more on the ground analysis. Today I am explaining the actual form that I am also presenting here, so you understand what someone wanted to do here and what was the intention. The intention was economic mega event that would also have political function, and that is where finally economy is going to would be defeating the politics. Now, now we need to understand what drives that economy. That in substance it is consuming the human, and it is consuming the human intelligence, and then wants to go away from it as a higher or as in charge. Clearly, and what clearly appear as rather lower. That can be understood as a majority of uneducated people, because we have just established majority of people just 100 years ago have been mostly uneducated. And today also, 100 years is not much of a time, much time to change millenniums old affairs. Continue clearly to be driven by such mega power of such mega physical dominant force. Physical dominant force. These would be various cartels, oligarchs, which are not exactly in the face of these coins, these faces that are representing. These oligarchs are actually representing enormous number of people behind them that are actually representing this bulk I'm talking about of probably 80%, even that is too modest, 80% of highly uneducated population driven, I'm talking traditionally 100 years old tradition, of managing these protocols. Now, if we assume that it is, everything can go differently. This can be also monitored via mega companies, and who was controlling mega companies and who is controlling mega trade. And that would be aristocracy. We can go other way. Actually, aristocracy was controlling the mega events. Aristocracy was making mega companies and was in charge of ownership of mega companies. Therefore, aristocracy would be at some point of time happening as using a magic ball to reach higher level. At some point, therefore, what was monarchical protocol has become not up to its expectations. And also, I would argue, 2 millenniums, it is 2 millenniums of adventure where they are actually using this level of assistance. What they're using as assistance is, therefore, the actual intelligence and the actual drivers, people that have such, like the best employees, for example, things like that. When on much more some kind of historic mega scale, it has also become, within the category of various temples that have become occupied, basically hunt for mega players that would be used as a mega slaves within what becomes economically driven political stage, as of what it is today. Economically driven political stage. So, when I say tribunal societies, I'm basically reaching monarchy here. Because in substance, I have argued many times, the real monarchy also ended to be locked within these tribunal societies, because the real stamps have become so much hunted and so much like a temple of Sinai, so much becoming product of following and using, that actually the order monarchy itself just was not careful enough to notice that they are actually using their own protocol, and they're surrendering their own protocol to economic benefits. That is why I notice tribunal societies behind all of this. Because behind economic power sits order. And that order is tribunal, still tribunal. And that order is actually delivering monarchy as well as its order. We're become obviously trapped in time between natural inclination to stay as they are powerfully selected from the rest of the people, in charge of companies, owners of the mega companies, owners of the mega capital groups, owners of everything that is moving and shaking on the planet. And the fact that in substance they need to use drivers and performers to maintain the system. They have lost the protocol. And in process, they're losing the human as well. Of course, one can enclose here, I certainly can enclose another philosophical question here, and that is, how much the correct answer will be politics rather than economy? How much, when we are speaking of human, we would end up in the room politics rather than in the room economy? And here it is, perfect example. Fact is that that America today, USA of America, wants to completely distance from Europe. While in substance, as we are all aware, just in last century, entire industry of Germany went into America, mostly North America, probably one good part into South America as well. And with it, I'm very sure that was not just Germany, but basically every single much more bigger, more substantial business, European business during last century, First and Second World War, actually went completely into America. And their headquarters, I'm very sure, that is European industry of last century I'm talking. And I'm very sure, including one from Moscow, as they would not be sitting out there with their capitals and waiting for Germans. They would all go America. So basically, in last century, because of the two world wars with enormous military equipment done and enormous devastations, one would assume that entire industry of Europe went into America. But now look at the phenomena. America is separate than what it is Europe. In substance, that's not true. America, to a great extent, is Europe, or in other words, basically continuation of Europe. So, however, within the politics of United States of America, that is absolutely not reflected. Why? Because the businesses themselves are privately owned and they do not feel as they owe anything to their people or to their countries because it's private capital. As for example, take Hilton Hotel, for example, or even the well-known dynasty that we have been watching in 80s. They are in substance German headquarters. German Carringtons, that would be German headquarters, as well, I could have certainly noticed watching the latest edition of Dynasty. But in general, let's focus on Hilton Hotels, which for sure we know they are Germans. Now, what do they, or even let's take Donald Trump. Donald Trump is, as we are aware, originating just second generation, probably, somewhere from Central Europe. And look how Donald Trump now speaks to Europe. Why? Because he is private capitalist and he doesn't think that his money has to do anything with any of the center of the states in Europe. So here, what wins? Economy or money or politics? What wins is economy. Politics doesn't win because it is private capitalism, and private capitalism doesn't care about politics. Private capitalism cares about itself. And because America is private capitalism, they forget about Europe completely because they don't feel it that way. They don't feel as a private business that they owe anything to Germans in Germany. And they can make as much as they want their political German Nazi national political party. The fact is that their own citizens of last century sitting out there, their own capitalists, the headquarters of the biggest and largest capital groups are sitting in America. They are the ones that do not give damn about Germany. They have to admit that. Yes, you have to admit before you make like a little puppet your next Nazi party, you have not sorted out the previous yet. And why would you not sort it out the previous? Because you're acting like a little puppy. Exactly, little puppy sitting in the charge of the political house, Germany. Why on earth you don't deal first with the previous century? Oh, it's not being closed yet. German capital is all over the planet. Are you not going to account it under that flag? I mean, if you are serious awakening at it, are you not going to reconnect with these capitalists? Mega one? What we're talking about? Or maybe they are sponsoring now the new Germany, like the new pipe for their businesses, for sure. Yes, that would be pretending, we have nothing to do with Europe now, but in substance, they're all over Europe now, increasing even the infrastructure, because, well, the businesses will need to continue what they have been doing in the previous times, and that is piping the matrix land. Here, the capitalists, here it becomes politics become completely wasted into economy. Either it is national or international, completely get wasted into economy. You see, politics disappear, just melts down, as means nothing. As much as to private capitalists, their people mean absolutely nothing. In contrary, they are going to consume them because they are consumers. Consumers rather, well, yes, they are going to treat them as consumers. They're not going to treat them as a people of their nation, how you would talk about these matters in political terms. No, you talk of people as your consumers. You make money out of them. That is how naturally politics disappears versus, cannot fight the economy, because on personal level, it doesn't win. It doesn't win on personal level. Unless, of course, you bring individuals to whom on personal level it works differently. To whom on personal level politics is in first place, and the economy and private capitalism is not their personal matter, and they're not capitalists, and accordingly they are their mega political stamp, and they are not capitalists, their mega political stamp, of course, is going to be actual political function here, and it's going to result in outcome national integrity, building national integrity, and so on and so on. So what wins here is politics that is detaching itself from economic, private economic interest. That becomes critical. Here, I can't see how Donald Trump can be seen, or monarchy that happens and has become private business affair, because obviously they can't do anything else in order to remain on that stage. Basically, they have lost it. The moment when they can't perform. Although arguably, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip, I have been discussing that many times, they have managed to deliver some kind of strong political propaganda. I wouldn't call it function, although maybe it was, clearly it was a mega political function, but it was not ideological, it was not legal, it was not the one searching for answers, but it was the one trying to remain on its place. Now, we will never, it's very hard for me to actually judge that, because monarchy is there, that house specifically, it's there for a much longer period of time, where monarchy was actually a real political event. And that tradition in England exists to present days very much as in reference as a real political event. And we have no doubt that they actually bring real political function, because they carry on that tradition. Now, how much they have managed to actually be Marx and Engels themselves, which obviously they are not, and that is where I find that kind of now critical momentum, where if you can't be that level of some kind of political political lighthouse, then what you are? If you can't be this, then what you are? This becomes next generation question. That's kind of soul search. And it wasn't easy for me at all to, doesn't matter here, someone wanted to say yesterday, bastard or not bastard. I really, I would find myself here very much, first of all, as myself, and it is everything else that I am searching for certain answers here, rather than being on the other side of the equation. It is more like you're yourself, and then you try to understand what's going on here. But in substance, it becomes that kind of question today. It to all of us, I'm very sure, not just my question, but to all of us, where we go next with that heritage, how we run it, how we understand it. And my answer, should I give answers out of charge? I'm going to stop here. And my answer is that we have to bring to that house what that house is supposed to be. In order, however, that house be up to that function, it will need to have its protocol correctly understood, and it should be looking after next reincarnation in the way how they're doing it in Vatican, with much more serious consideration who is going to be next Pope. That is, who is going to be next monarch. It's going to be very serious consideration, not so lightly delivered. Now, to the extent that one is going to say there are various interest groups behind all of that. Yes, there are always going to be various interest groups. I have identified today they are not various interest groups. They are the history and the identity of this planet. That is something that no one should be also ignoring, and it should not be seen as something wrong, because if that house does not represent the identity of the planet, then what it would be. So it is okay if it is connected to the earliest societies and rooted in the some kind of matrix of earliest societies or the oldest societies. That is all correct, and it should be like that, because that's identity of the planet. And all you can do is that in any new time, you play that game in the most correct possible way. That's the critical momentum, that you have to play your game in the best possible way. And that has not happened so far. It become lost in translation altogether. Either what kind of house that is, what are the roots of that house, and how such roots should be played. That is where we are today. And that is our answer. Of course, it's going to be about managing of humanity. But I'm not, at this very stage, I'm not eager to delegate that function to anyone else. Ultimately become a matter of the function itself and the one that is actually delivering it. It becomes concept of Excalibur. In that context, all of the previous matters just will need to be completely recalibrated, completely reset to become authentic, not just authentic, but correctly playing its historic place. Now, what is the outcome of this entire realization? As well, when you awaken as complete political subject in this kind of story. What's the outcome? The outcome is understanding first and foremost how imperialism works. Still, I mean, how it happens. Imperialism, which from my perspective, being completely political subject, I still notice it, and it still, I'm not going to say fascinates me or attracts me, but empowers my political identity. Because let's recognize politics in substance connects to its birthplace, which is king or queen. Protocol, undoubtedly it is about, you would not say controlship. You would say in charge, because we all want to own what we do. We want to be in charge, and we want to be the best in what we do. That ultimately comprise certain element of controlship. Even if you are in your private company or even your private business, you want to be in control of what you do. In politics, that translates into, if you are certainly don't want to waste your time, certainly translates into solid level of being in charge of what you're doing. Ultimately, I will notice imperial power as a political platform, not as economic platform, and that is to what my identity is going to tend to reconnect as with a certain magnetic vibe, because my identity is completely wasted into imperial platform, because my kind of people create and craft empires. And also, it will need to match your political perspective. That is, today we are not talking just physical. We are talking about bringing it on the political stage. Now, which means that the entire zone, Israel, that is Central Ancient Plateau, Israel, Palestine, Syria, Iran, Iraq, Turkey, Greece, Macedonia, Yugoslavia, parts of Russia, that mega center where history begins, allegedly, with the little center sitting in the little, venture, with the bigger Singidunum above it, trying to translate everything to the little venture, which sounds to me rather English, Serbia. It basically represents a mega gigantic political basin where you have the senses, entire politics today sums in that basin. And if I am a person of my making, I would be recognizing that basin like a dog recognizing a bone. And I am recognizing it accordingly. And for me, it is not a Gordian knot. For me, it is a source of my political, I'm not going to say agenda, but of my political work and of my political win. And of my political win. Because I need to bring it forward. I need to win it. I need to win the past. I cannot drop it. I cannot disperse it. I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose it. It can be noticed here also that this political performance, this identity political that I depict here, becomes completely next level of the previous coordinates. Also here to talk about previous coordinates, it is, and born on territories from where I am born, it is not easy sentence to bring forward. I mean, no matter what kind of political coordinates we would like to talk about, when you just enclose place where I have been born and region where I have been born, one unavoidably will need to include that region and what would means when person get born in that region accordingly. So you get this political performance completely on next level, which means that Our ancient Macedonian and ancient Greco-Macedonian platform was included in that genetic card, undoubtedly, to the point that it actually dominates the previous coordinates. Also can still relate on a couple of aspects with the previous, in substance deliver its a much more grandiose political performance, which obviously is even beyond the play of Yugoslavia in last century, which indicates what kind of history we talk about here, and which of course undoubtedly everyone is aware, and that is why obviously these territories continue to be constantly bombarded and searched after, not because they would have weapons of mass destruction, but because they would withhold this kind of genetic historic heritage. I'm going to say historic heritage because it is still, we are still going to talk about neatly and nicely formatted political bloodlines, which they obviously nicely refer as to some kind of oil reference and oil reserves or oil currencies and things like that, or oil canals or whatever, gas canals, how they call it, pipelines. Well, technically we're talking about bloodlines here. No, basically they're walking entire bloodlines over the region in the recent human history. Of course, in closing, such secret ingredient in that formula delivers this. Now, how far this traditionally would have been called genie in the bottle altogether, or well-kept secret, or the fire, or the temple, or whatever you call it, is that next level question as well. Here, therefore, I don't feel liable to the previous, but I certainly feel entitled to use the infrastructure or the accomplished heritage for promotion of something that I would recognize as regional formulation, and further historic heritage platform where the previous get incorporated, but more in a format of taken care of, because we talk about formulation of the entire protocol in something that's going to take care of the territories, but equally take care of all of the territories and bring historic closure that is not going to be as someone is going somewhere to fish something, but we become a planet that will need to take care of itself, and when foreign assistance is required, then you call it foreign assistance, rather than I'm going to hunt the oil field of certain territories. No, you call it foreign assistance. No one is going to, you don't talk about of Netanyahu as a hunting the oil field. You're calling him Netanyahu, and then it is your ally, and you get advised by him. Now, why you're going to narrow the field just to Netanyahu? Why would you not like to be advised by that many wise men or women that can be born on that territory? Because if we talk about realizing within your own parameters, then why on earth you have your noses all over the other fields? This will need to be answered. If we understand a planet as coordination of each of the national, self-defined and self-functional national territories, which you should be capable, and today I can see you're dreaming about something like that. You complain about having immigrants. You want to be nationally rounded up. I'm just asking, why on earth you're just not, why on earth you need to disturb all of these people and all of these immigrants and then complain, all of these refugees, and then complain about immigration? Because to me that sounds a bit childish and unresponsible. All of a sudden you have problems called immigrants. No, that's not where how that problem happens. It happens when you start throwing bombs on certain territories. So now what is the problem from where we are versus where how it is? That this imperial protocol actually happens always somewhere in the clouds, obviously, before it lands. What we can conclude here? We can conclude here that territories that are on the ground, that are under imperial stamp, would always have their imperial protocol somewhere in the clouds, always ready to slide in its next generation with its next imperial chanting. That's point number one. Point number two, the infrastructure, including the weapons, are available to the imperial protocol as their product and belong to imperial protocol, not to random population living on the territories, because the territories exist under the spell of mainstream imperial currency. That means everything that goes in package with that currency is imperial infrastructure and exists attached to the next cloud to bring the next chanting, the next reasoning. That is nothing there is yours. It belongs to the imperial cloud as we speak. Imperial cloud is not Elon Musk, Facebook, Alibaba, or whatever. Imperial cloud is what emperor or empress does. That is, in this case scenario, active imperial stamp recognized, basically detected, and that's the latest spell, which means I'm entitled to entire imperial infrastructure and to weapons attached to imperial stamp, because these weapons belong to the imperial stamp. They don't belong to regular random people to do randomly whatever they want with that weapon. Keep that, please, on mind. Next, when I'm speaking tribunal societies, well, you're not going to find them exactly on the mainstream of a playgrounds. They would be where the remains are in the provinces. Accordingly, for example, the tribunal must, you are not going to find tribunal order in Europe in the way how you find it with Maoris, or with Aborigines, with Indians somewhere, or somewhere in India even, or somewhere in Malaysia, for example. In certain circles, in circles of China, in circles in Japan, circles of Australia, circles of some kind of rural America, circles of rural South America. That is where you find tribunal order. You're not going to find them in the mainstream of civilizational playgrounds. That's not where the tribunal society is going to sit. Certainly not in the way how you find it in Maoris, for example. Even if you have it within some kind of civilizational matrix, it's going to be still matter of arguing of certain much more intelligent conversation than getting on the field and hunting just your political opponent, or what you would think it is your political opponent. Like you sit in Croatia and our tribunal society is in Serbia. No, it's actually in Africa. It's not exactly in Serbia. Why? Well, because there is difference between Serbia and Africa. Although now, second question, how much? how far. But you're already in conversation here. You're not exactly, oh, I get my machete and I get on the field. When you find yourself in a conversation, machete doesn't go first. Because it doesn't. Because a word goes first. But if you lock it in some kind of secret room, and then go and say, here, there are machetes, that's you. I'm going to say, I'm sorry. Wrong answer. Just wrong answer. I'm sorry. That's yourself, probably. That's yourself. Because in the mainstream of European, of that Euro-Asia platform, on the mainstream of Euro-Asia platform, we know in old centuries, we knew much better than that. We learned something much better than that. No, you're not going to say to this world, that is what these savages from Central Europe are doing on our territories. Excuse me, guys. It's not going to stand. Unless you make a mockery out of yourself. It doesn't stand. Leave our kids, your kids in general, leave them aside of it. That music is being made in Hollywood, not by me. The movies and the music are being made in America, somewhere in America with the capital that belong to these industries, to music industries, to movie industries, and they're employing various artists to make the movies and the music. I have nothing to do with it. And if I wanted to tell you that here it is, that history is European before it is to be your local, I'm not walking it with machetes today. Well, because I know better than that. If I don't know better than that, then probably it would be that. But if I can do better than that, then I will be doing better than that. You should be assured about it, that if I can do better than that, then I am doing better than that. I'm not here to kill one person. I'm not here to kill persons. I'm here writing the latest legal system, imperial one. I'm writing the latest imperial order. That's not about to kill people, but certainly the intention is to disable many people that continue to think in the wrong way about our cultures, societies, and living together on the planet. Well, we found today Macedonia winning in some kind of ball and chain game. What it is to be noticed yet, that Macedonia, equally as any of the other countries out there on this region, also Central European, and very much going through all of the reforms in any of the given time, first would be happening there. Either fight versus Nazism, fascism, versus capitalism, socialism, social revolution, revolution of working class, dealing with a religion and tribunals and capitalism and anything else as a socialism-driven new society, you would be basically wiping out everything. It would be super clean out there on these territories, like super polished. That is what socialism would be. And I come here, I'm a cleaner. Excuse me, I'm the clean one. I'm not cleaner, I'm the clean one. The clean one is not cleaner. It's being cleaned. Cleaners do not clean. They're too clean. There we are. What I wanted to say here is that the answer I have found here, Macedonia versus Serbia, for example, like chain and ball, is not that simple, because it would have been recognized, although not present officially within the mainstream of political rhetoric, the pagan society, within the corners, especially in Australia, and America, even, and Europe, even within the peripheries, rather, of this cultural deploy, there would have been influences that would have been returning home, and that would have been actually within the mainstream platform playing their pagan society. And that is a catching momentum when Janis Joplin is not exactly not evolving certain Macedonian structures that would have been actually trading their own properties equally as they're doing, as equal as other older societies are trading their properties. Here, Janis Joplin is not credit to Macedonian much more disadvantaged position. It doesn't have to be. It might just means Macedonia is ranking highest when it comes to trading assets. That is how that story goes. And Macedonia is more fierce or more determined to trade its own assets. Or someone is doing it on behalf of Macedonia. As, for example, Democratic Party of America, or Russians, or Bulgarians, yes, or Saudi Arabians, or even China and Japan, or Africans, or South Americans. Or it can be entire ring. It can be entire ring of the nations. In this case, now it's not just nations, become a continents. It's rather absurd. We're such a little country. And the genetics here of the Central Plateau becomes hunting of national resources rather than building a nation. Closer you think you are, further away you go. We see these two people sitting on that bench. How they look to you. They look to you as the one on the stage. And like hundreds of invisible hands playing the theater with all sorts of calculus. But what I'm going to say here, that when politics reach that level, well, instead to be a butterfly, become chief and commander, and manage to jump that high and become that vertical point, then it is a new time. Then it becomes time of higher turbulences. Because such protocol become broken, gets broken, because it gets through. What they have been selling or trading, what they have been keeping nicely packed, breaks through and deliver its dimension. When the game gets that level, then a real revolution happens. A real breaking through happens. And we don't have status quo. Today we are breaking this that phenomena. What on earth it is trading of resources from a national perspective. And how far we are not breaking the code of human. And here the book titled The Code of Human and Human Civilization is such an announcement. It is an announcement of breakthrough, where the economy doesn't stand anymore as the highest patron, because the real patron awakened. And that is, of course, always going to be politics. The politics. So that is my message to Macedonia, Serbia, and anyone else that are after oversimplified national conflict story. I don't think we are in national conflict story. And I think that you know that very well. Because you're not playing it either. It's just a pretense. It's just a pretense. A theater. Where we are today, all together as a humanity, we are discussing the game, the economic game you found yourself playing for quite some time, which is not economic, it is actually political. And that is the code of human and human civilization. It cannot be economic game. It cannot be economic game. It cannot be economic game. When it comes, therefore, to tribunal orders that are much more present on the provinces, in the provincial part of the either nations or the planet in general. Therefore, it will. I need to highlight something that also is important philosophical and conceptual civilizational question, and political, ultimately very strong political question that will need to be understood. So Americans do not find themselves in this kind of political mistake as where they are today. And that is, it is not about bringing the empire on the lowest of the level of your nation in order to play democracy or to take care of your people. That is not how we take care of people, by bringing the game to them. No, it's never going to be human civilization or human society functioning like that. The levels will be where they are, and humans will be measured by how far they can reach them. They might say, I'm not being enrolled in universities, or I'm not being given opportunities, or I do have poverty issue. I do have social problems. Who doesn't? The scale of social problems, the impact of economy, the impact of businesses, which today I discuss. And I don't need to go into gumboots and walk in the mud of rural America to do that. What I have explained many times, the human rights and any of the social shift in the political history, in the history of socio-political development has been in previous time delivered by aristocrats, by bourgeoisie, by sons and daughters of the establishment. It takes what it takes to bring civilization on next level and to sound as bringing civilization on next level. And when you say it has been overdone, the establishment, you're losing it. It has been overprotected to the extent that it has become idle and cannot defend development itself anymore. And you recognize that on the top level as well. when the top level it becomes too much supposed to be rather than to be top level, but you're still holding discussion there. But to bring it on the gumboots out there in the mud and say, here it is from where I'm going to judge the humanity, it is going too far in wrong direction. Also, you don't need William Hug if you don't have the issues to talk about, if you have nothing to talk about. You don't need size of a William Hug if you end up defending Republican Americans in rural America. You need William Hug if you want to project place of America among the rest of the nations. But if you go to hunt now William Hugs so they can be in service to you in rural America, then you're just destroying our assets. You're shrinking them into your gambas boot politics, and you're basically bringing humanity, sliding humanity completely down into your mud-driven tribunal Western America, Southwest America, or South America, south of USA, rural USA. If you need to destroy all of the William Hugs of entire Eurasia in order to bring him to defend your rural gumbots political stage of riding the bull as a realization of the planetary civilizational development, as a culmination of it, then my point is you're making too much of a damage all across the planet for the laziness of you stepping up with your lazy lifestyle, where you have to step up. And if you don't, well, then don't make a wish, because you already have your wish list. You have the beer, you have your cowboy lifestyle, you have plenty of God-given meat out there, bulls, you have your Yellowstone, you have what you have. Excuse me. But you're hunting me so I can be in service to you while riding the bulls. If you might say, well, we need to fight, as projected in Yellowstone movies, we need to fight the real estate developers that are destroying our workable country yards. Because if you go with Donald Trump, he's going to make golf clubs rather than to promote farming industry in America. Have you seen him walking in cowboy boots and with cowboy hats? Donald Trump, have you seen him in cowboy boots and with cowboy hats? Well, what we were watching in Yellowstone. Well, yes, the real estate developers destroying the farming of rural America. And then you found me from your urban Ohrid to bring to me complaint about rural underdevelopment. Well, I'm glorifying the village in the way how you never noticed it. Ohrid. So I really don't know how Ohrid managed to get to Yellowstone at all. If they ever saw a land other than a water in their entire lives. But they went now to be the real Americans. Malo sutra. Yes, Malo Sutra. Ohrid. Malo Sutra. We have tradesmen in my family. We don't have troop, but we don't have hoteliers. And I don't think the tradesmen would be against the ones sitting in Israel and Palestine, by the way, and paying your lunch, dinner, and breakfast as I speak. They would not be against rural environment, because rural environment provides trading. I mean, in previous times, people have been classically trading things, actually, classically, really, they would be really trading rice, really, because rice, we really eat rice in Eastern Macedonia. We actually really eat rice, and you actually really need to bring that rice into Macedonia, actually, in real terms. And my grandfather was actually going in horses with his team, and they would be going all the way to closer to India to bring India rice in Macedonia. And that is my grandfather become very rich man, but he was going on horse himself, all by himself and his team. And he was having that kind of stamina, that kind of persona, and he was doing it honestly and correctly and properly, and earning his money with the daring of who he was. And you went out there to call my family of real estate. I don't have real estate businesses. In my family, we don't have that. Donald Trump is having it. Yes, that's Donald Trump. Well, we are not Donald Trump. My conversation with Ohrid is closed on that level. And if there was anything else, Palestine and Israel, that we need to clarify today. Plenty of people already died. I don't think that farming societies of Australia and New Zealand, that is going to be isolated story of Palestine and Israel. I think it is the story of all of the humanity. Or it turned to be story of all of the humanity. At the time we started to excavate the previous layers of history and started to keep it silent. And that is what I'm going to call it, a bit hypnotic stage of the planetary civilization, that everyone is actually holding its secrets. As much as there is excavation happening all across the planet, and it is very known therefore the economic branch that is mines, oil derivation, and all of that. It is very old, one of the oldest before agriculture actually. It was first excavation from under the earth. Before to happen something much more sophisticated as it is agriculture. Which means that it is the earliest of the occupation of the Homo sapiens, should we call it rather. And it certainly has become as a planetary secret. That's hypnotic. That you can say a planet is acting within some kind of one rhythmics, one style. They're everywhere, keeping it secret. What they're excavating, what they're fishing, they're keeping it secret. That's a bit strange. Wherever you go, all the way to Siberia, or Palestine and Israel, or China and Japan, or Malaysia, or Alaska, or Canada, or South America, everywhere, It's all secret. Now you're going to point finger Palestine and Israel. I don't know, point finger, I don't know, whoever. Seriously? Seriously? Paul Dark of Australia and mining industry of Australia. What we're talking about here? There we are. So where is the human now? In rural America, with gumboots. We're going to starve humanity again. Or we are ready for this conversation. Or we are ready for this conversation. Something else will need to be added up here, especially when I look at the side of the equation where is monarchy. My concern about what kind of outcome such development delivered within the latest psychology of the latest monarchy representatives, because we can notice, I mean, in the trajectory of the fact that monarchies in the previous times have happened to grow from detachment to some kind of cruelty versus the rest of the humans. And very often they're known in making history of being cruel versus the ordinary humans, how they would perceive them. Hard even as a human beings, more on the side of the animal. They have grown into psychology of not to feel hurt or pain if they offend or even physically mistreat other people. So my concern is how far that or being born in socialism country, and also as a human being very much sensitive, very much emotional, and very much humanitarian, I have high degree of concern of where exactly today is ranking the psychology of actual monarchs, actual real living monarchs out there, real living in context of their protocol without being challenged obviously on the time dimension as I'm doing it today, but in the way how they perceive themselves, very much frozen in the time actually. My concern would be how much of that frozen in the time would affect their sense of being humane versus other humans, and how far that goes. How far that goes. In that context, also the latest development of artificial intelligence and the very obvious fact that some kind of fascist, probably from Germany, still may preserved somehow scientists, like crazy scientists that have absolutely zero sense for humility or humanity, how much they would not be the one interested to experiment with human as a robotic, human as artificial intelligence, and how far today the war making and that much of soldiers being sent on the front lines is to do with politics at all, or it is to do with need to have enough dead bodies or enough next to dead bodies that would then be excusable for some kind of surgical treatment and delivery of that, or some kind of artificial intelligence, incorporating robotics, which are human robotics, incorporating actual human body embodied with the robotics itself. We have that level of robotization going on, which is basically experimenting with human bodies. And how far today, two questions therefore, how far today the entire war-making situation is not about supply of enough of bodies, especially invalid bodies, that would be used for this kind of scientific design. And where the monarchies and the aristocrats, where they exist within some kind of humanitarian approach to life, or rather with their sense of detachment from the regular population, and then going next level of mistreating regular population to the point of not having any sense of humility or humanitarianism in them, and going away and going in direction of hurting other people, or using other people for experiments, because they simply do not have sense about other people. They don't feel about other people. As the aristocratic order, or some of the aristocratic orders, simply appear as they do not have enough sentiment for other humans. Now we talk here about certain aristocratic circles, or should I say about most of the aristocratic circles. I hope I have said enough, that I am speaking about the code of the previous imperial protocols, but I do not approve present monarchical or aristocratic orders as they are. I have been fighting them all of the time. And if I see today Democrats, when we see today Democrats defeated on that ground, I am not going to find that much that as a painful subject for me. I'm going to let America to deal with its historic heritage, or remains of historic heritage. It is right of America to deal with their remains of historic heritage in all of the inappropriate and wrong ways, when it happened in all of the inappropriate and wrong ways. But I'm going in the same time to say, as of what I have said, my concern that rural America took for itself higher place than they have earned it in the entire civilizational overall development on the planet. I have impression that they simply, not that they just are in the intention to bring intervention in their national soil, but they are much more ambitious to impose that America over the world. And that is what most of the people, especially when it comes to rural Republican Party, one is going to find that as overstep, simply overstep, or simply someone jumping too high for a given time. The fact is, however, that as much as European Union and Western partners, while speaking of Russia, want to always point out their very, very serious political agenda or political positions. Fact is that in my life, I have spent good part of my life in socialism, and it was about philosophy, mathematics, political economy. It was about education and education and education. I came here and it was about entertainment, entertainment, entertainment. That was your part of the game. That is what West is. That is what West is in closing. And now you want not a bigger part of the bread, but you want all of the bread. And the question, of course, ultimately the question will be, and what I am going to get out of it, and what I'm supposed to do exactly with your entertainment industry and with your entertainment industry associated capital to such an extent that most of you don't dare even to ask. Westlands, what chunk of the capital assigned to Western societies is actually soaking in entertainment industry? And alike today you see this entire next level technology is completely wasted in entertainment. The Chinese are blocking it, but you're not. And you're the higher Hire with what? Hire with what? With entertainment industry. Elon Musk promoting his X out there, Twitter X, and his entertainment translated rocket science, which of course is not technological rocket science, it is social media rocket science. It is technology implemented in social media. That is why he is buying Twitter. It is entertainment and too much entertainment going on the west side of the equation. And then we are confronting Russians, or you are confronting Russians because Russians are less entertaining. Yes. I am enclosing, because of that side of the equation, today my skill in political philosophy, because I was educated on that side of the Iron Gate. Now, how we are going to make closure here? Exactly. And with this entire event, exactly, when I can't even happen on your side of the equation, but you are supposed to win. You are supposed to win with what? I can't be even real character on your side of the equation. Well, I don't know how much I can be real character on the Russian side of the equation, but I'm very sure they can at least have less problem to bring forward this work. And I'm not sure that that's going to be that easy for you. So what we are going to do about it? I think Israel here will need to deliver that closure. Israel will need to deliver, to confront itself with the fact that they went too much entertainment, or should I say that's going to be actually Roman imperialism. I think Roman imperialism today, and what sits behind Roman imperialism, what was sitting behind Roman imperialism, Octavian, Western tribunal societies, that were actually dragging it all on their side, brought that historic, our ancient historic heritage on money, in category of money-making machine. That is where Western civilization today has been stuck. And Western civilization will need to find its way out. Western civilization will need to draw the line today, summarize what they have become before bring themselves in any confrontation. It will need to be clear in the name of what they're willing to confront, what they are defending today. The other side, of course, will need to enclose recapitulation on historic heritage that simply cannot be employed anymore in 21st century politicking. I can't see any of the sides winning today. The one that is winning today is my political presentation, and that political presentation is not supposed to take us to choose a side, especially when none of the sides are enclosing what would be required here. I'm not obliged to accept one or another answer here. I'm providing my answer. You are, I would argue, rather obliged to notice that this work has landed on this earth, despite of the fact that both of the sides very heavily are trying to ignore it, all for different reasons, ready even to go into Third World War rather than to recognize that this work actually landed on earth. And monarchy of England is playing a puppet. I can't criticize them plenty. I think I think there was something there. Also, I can't understand what. I think something moved there, and I'm afraid it wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. Also, the most correct answer would be they could have not moved more than rather expressing initiative or expressing willingness to have someone to defend their positions, because they have been heavily under attack. As a history, without someone trying to allow that history to walk ahead, well, everyone willing to cash on the currency and passport level, and on Great Britain, in the same time very willing to throw all of the stones on them. Also, they were the ones that were carrying Great Britain through the centuries, and no one else but them. And you would be wrong if you were to say today that house has nothing to do with what British Empire is today in the world. That would be wrong. So you are stuck in your own history. You don't know what to do with it, but you are ready to go into a world war. Would you not? Isn't it not that you would rather to spend time rather than talking about war and waste money on war, rather to recapitulate your own history? Would it not be worthier the money and the effort? And why you started that war at all? Because you have started it. Whoever you is here, whoever you is, I can only be sorry for you. Truly sorry for both of you. Like a children lost in a forest, sending their kids to die, running the profit, as there is nothing else they can possibly go after, as the last resort. What happened to everything else but material? What happened to that? Is it as good just for Hollywood? Just for Oscars? It cannot be good for anything else? Isn't it not just sad story, Israel? Isn't it not just it is also sad to address a nation or a city that was 3 times burned to the ground by crusaders. That nation is ghost nation. It's a replica of what Israel was once upon a time. That nation is a ghost. One should be rather angry at Roman imperialism and beyond. And again, I'm going to say tribunal society, tribunal society, tribunal society. All across the planet, tribunal society. Russia is to be blamed only because have heavy tribunal society there. But would you say Western societies that you don't have your tribunal societies as well? Either we are going to speak Australia, either we are going to speak rural America, either we are going to speak Britannia, where in Scotland, for example, Ireland, you have heavy rural society cultures that are still driving masonry order in USA of America. And Europe, in all of that, continue to be also hiding its roots, afraid to confront them, or being obviously caught in all of it. Also, First and Second World War should be enough of an awakening for someone to start thinking eventually in post-war times. Isn't it not something there that we should be actually changing? I'm just surprised to find that Western Europe was not intrigued more on the ideological grounds for what Western Europe is, or we are inclined to think Europe is. Very much proud of their history, but would you, but not providing too much answers after Second World War. Would it not be what happened in Second World War, after Second World War, the emergence of socialism? Would it not be and the changes that happened with the entire Jewishness? Would it not be triggering certain questions, and especially after confronting Nazism and defeating Nazism allegedly, or doesn't matter, just having Nazism around and fascism? Would you not make some of European theoreticians to actually spend more time thinking about any of these questions in more serious manner? Now that is what puzzles me here. Why you're not enclosing much weighted political discussion? My answer would be because people have become too much programmed to bring rhetoric within certain prescribed political party system, prescribed rhetoric dictated by political parties, and above it by businesses that increasingly are taking over the field, and simply people that have not stepped up as myself and taken a bit of a time to think about it, but rather jump on the field to be ahead of the time, rather with whatever is the latest innovation, actually have missed to bring real innovation in politics simply because they have the political philosophy, as any kind of philosophy, require a bit of a step up, taking a bit of a distance like a scientist, bringing yourself on completely different frequency, detaching yourself from everyday dynamics, and obviously not many people in Europe found attractive enough to bring that kind of experiment. Neither I would really be inspired for something like that if I was not pushed on certain kind of stage, because obviously the genetics I was inheriting here. However, I'm going to say it is not good enough because it is not providing me interface. And I don't think that this kind of analysis the planet can afford not to hear and not to allow it to land. I'm surprised to find that nations actually continue to ignore what is the biggest puzzle of the present time, and that is that they continue not to be bothered how to provide interface to this work, but are rather bothered to discuss the next war where they are going to continue to throw billions and thousands of young lives. That is easier for them than to think how they are going to provide landing of my work. So Israel, entertainment industry of Jewish and Roman imperialism money in America, which after all still will be occupying Democratic Party of America. It is time that you responsibly answer to this particular question, how you intend to allow this work to land. Because you have been having 2 terms or even 3 terms during this entire time of me, 2 terms actually for sure, during this entire time, 2 terms of Obama actually, and one term of Biden, 3 terms, Democratic Party. You have not bothered to think even how you're going to, how would you allow happen, what you would be doing to allow this work to land. You were capable to do all of the devastation in Middle East. I was, of course, I'm going to be very much confident or sure that you have done it on the back of my work, underestimating from your entertainment industry positioned economy and political stage that is nothing else but pure entertainment. You got for yourself right to walk above this work and trash it down, assuming that you have in hands something bigger and better, and that would be entertainment industry capital. So, excuse me, as big as you think of yourself you are, how you're going to allow my work to land? Or you have no such intention. In which case, we should solidly describe Western society as profoundly entertainment industry related. And stamp it as well with monarchical stamp, yes, with that one. And with Murdoch company adjoining, enclosing, and Roman imperialism enclosing their stamps as well. And so ticket collection is. And then you are going to fight with Russians that are on the level of collecting pocket money by having dancing bear on the field. I'm going to conclude it is profoundly disappointing that today we have found this world totally drawn in tribunal society sentiment and tribunal society definitions and tribunal society's way of thinking. We don't have winner here, and it is just unacceptable that both sides are making war, because that is more like two gangs somewhere on the streets of America are making a war. This is completely gang level of war, and normal human beings should not be engaged in taking sides, because when two mafias are fighting, normal human beings do not take a side. It is very, very, very sad story that lives of many young kids, many young boys and girls actually, are being risked and even lost in these war conflicts, and for the sake of pure gang mafia-driven capital. That is what is regret today. It is sad. And it is also sad that entire European Union, entire infrastructure of European Union refused to admit that they are completely in service to European mafias and to world mafia, and Europe has not managed to become anything else. Because, excuse me, guys, but if you were to dare to think of yourself higher than that, then you should be enclosing more some words as well, not just promises to mafias and to gangs. But you're not doing it because probably you're afraid. Maybe you're threatened. Maybe you would be killed. And it is time to notice that politics today has lost it completely. Totally lost it. And today we should give Oscar to entertainment industry of Israel and to Roman imperialism for winning today the world as a gangs, as nothing else but mafia gangs of mafia culture of what once upon a time was Roman imperialism famously, or should I say, the one that never actually happened. And yes, I'm going to say for a record, in case I have not said it properly. If I don't care, I will not doing what I'm doing. If I don't care where this civilization is going to go, if I don't care where our kids are going to go in the future, where we are not going to be around, I wouldn't be doing this. I'm doing this because I care. And because I care, I'm asking today Western civilization how exactly they intend to stamp their civilizational development so far without spending so many words speaking about Russians, where I'm going to start thinking that they have invented all of that word just to avoid to confront their own state of affairs. But you owe it to our kids, and you have to confront it. You have to confront it because of your kids, because you want to leave to them better future. So time is now. You have to confront it on what you intend to recapitulate today your Western civilization, Western society. And so exactly same question to Russians and to the rest of Eastern, more tribunal-driven societies. How exactly you intend to recapitulate your development so far? You be honest, it is you and God and no one else. You draw that line today as a human being and then as a political subject, how you're going to recapitulate on your civilizational development so far. And why I'm not landing is because you're too lazy and too irresponsible to provide such answers. Or because you're not capable admitting that you are not ready for this conversation and for this confrontation. And that now that you are enforced to confront yourself with such recapitulation. And yes, I have to remind myself that I have said many times, bring it to the next generation, do that kind of recapitulation. The kids, everything, kids have right to continue living on the ground. Kids have right to survive. Kids have right to go in the future. And what we have been seeing is kids in Ukraine being targeted. Not in Ukraine, but in Palestine. And what we see today, kids are going to war in Ukraine, on both sides. Kids on our planet, for someone, are disposable. For someone out there, our kids continue to be disposable. Who are these someone people to whom our kids are just disposable? To whom our kids are so much disposable? It is time to answer. Earthians, United Nations, to whom our European kids are so much disposable. I'm standing up today with this work to save the right of European kids and European population to be alive, and right of Americans to be alive and to live on this earth like human beings, not as disposable products. And that is how I'm going to recapitulate on the Western civilization. I have been beating up and beating up and beating up that Western civilization. Accusing it for destroying our countries. Today I have to confront that they're probably not the one bringing decisions, or they're being lured into such decisions, or they're just not being properly guided into their decision making. It is very hard not to blame the one that are throwing the bombs, which are making difference as to be or not to be when it is in question a country or economy of certain nations. But can bombard the country for 90 days and find millions of people out of job and millions of families out of work, and can turn head on the other side and forget about it. That is that aristocracy. It's that aristocracy that just can do something like that. Because they have been trained in their entire historic life to be like that. From little kids, they have been trained to learn how to turn their head on the other side. And they are very good in doing that. That is why I'm blaming still Western civilization. And that is that one sitting in Democratic Party. They're the one that can destroy a country or the entire region overnight and turn their head on the other side. And I have been rightfully criticizing, I wouldn't say beating up, but certainly harshly criticizing Western approach. And I have tried to understand it and to find the answers that obviously were not that much Western at all. Either it's Roman imperialism, either it is tribunal societies of the Middle Eastern territories. I was never focused exclusively on criticizing Western society, but in substance we have to recognize and admit that they are the one bringing the decisions, and they are the one that are actually driving the latest decision making on the planet. They are compromising it and they are allowing it to happen, and that is why they need to accept part of that responsibility for allowing this work to land today, rather than to speak about starting world war. Allowing this work to step down on the ground, I would argue it's worthier effort and investment even, or preconditions rather, than discussing the next war. I don't know what that means. Obama has done it. Then Obama should correct it properly. Obama should provide the apology. Obama should apologize. Or the one that were controlling Obama, the Democratic Party itself, or maybe Monarchy of England, or maybe Serbia, maybe Tesla Protocol, maybe Nikola Tesla Protocol, maybe Serbia itself, maybe Serbia need to apologize to the entire world. I don't know. Someone will need to apologize here. Someone will need to apologize. Or more than someone. Hollywood will need to apologize. Financial system will need to apologize. The financial system will need to apologize. Jewish capital in America will need to apologize. Jewish and Roman imperialism, capital, and America will need to apologize.